Hey everybody, it's Mike Cadieux here with some big announcements for Foundry Sourcing, our community assisted sourcing program, also known as a GPO. Although GPO to me doesn't seem to work. I don't know. It's just not. I guess community assisted sourcing is the new intelligent AI infused version of a GPO for us. And I am with our newest partner in that space, Heather Fotch from Quality Imaging Solutions. Hi, Heather. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks. How are you?
I'm great. I'm super excited to talk to everybody and tell everybody about our new relationship in this space and the fact that, we've been able to hammer down an agreement that I think is going to be extremely valuable for our membership, right? And let's talk about that a little bit. Why don't you introduce yourself, introduce Quality Imaging Solutions, tell us a little bit about the company and what you do. I think it's pretty apparent what you do based on the lights behind you, which I think are fabulous. But tell us a little bit about what you do and what types of clients you do have and things like that. That'd be great.
Awesome. So Quality Imaging Solutions, we've primarily focused our efforts on reducing spend specifically in the printer cartridge category of office supplies. So we've been doing this about 20 years. I have seen pretty much every trend come around over the last couple of decades on what's been happening. Obviously, the pandemic has made some new ones as well.
Yep.
And what I am really passionate about is identifying opportunities for customers to purchase smarter by SKU selection and also paying attention to what fleet they have in use. And that is what really ends up driving their year-over-year savings on their consumables and cost avoidance as well.
Yeah. This to me seems to be, and thank you for that, by the way. How many years you been doing this?
Almost 20, actually. Next April will be my 20th anniversary.
Wow, that's amazing. And your business is it's your business, right? It's a tier one eligible, minority owned business certified.
Absolutely. We're state and federally certified as a WBE and a DBE.
Wow, congratulations. That's great. Listen, this for me, when I was a chief procurement officer, this for me is what I would call a throwaway category, right? Like, all right, maybe I went out and I leased some equipment, or I signed a contract with one of the big office supply companies, and I launched this thing for 4 or 5 years. 3-year life cycle, 4-year life cycle on my equipment leases, and I incorporated that in, and I know I wasn't doing it cost effectively, right? But it was a throwaway. So for me, I kind of set it and forget it. That's probably not the right strategy, though, right? I mean, we talked a little bit about this in kind of our early discussion. Can you hit on a couple of points as to why that's probably not the right thing to do, which is set it and forget it?
Absolutely. It definitely is a kind of sleeper category where businesses have, like you said, set up agreements for managed print or just with an office supply big box store to handle those needs. But it ends up being the category, as far as office supplies go, ends up being the category that gets exploited the most. When I do comparisons with big box store sales data, I end up seeing a ton of issues where sales reports can't be sorted very well because there's SKU substitutions. The pricing isn't matched when there's SKU substitutions. And because of the sheer volume of sales that's being done on those sorts of agreements, between pens and paper and furniture and all of those things within office supplies, it ends up being too much data for procurement teams to analyze. So they end up not analyzing it and then not realizing that so much money is actually being spent or there's missed opportunities for savings at the same time.
Right. So really interesting that is, that there's opportunities there that people just, and plus the market fluctuates, right? I mean, there's a lot of changes, a lot of innovations. There's, new cartridges that come out that have new capabilities. And so I'm imagining that it's kind of a moving target at all times. And this is not something that you just want to put in the back burner for 5 years, 4 years, 3 years. Given the fact that there's a constantly changing and evolving arena here around print-related supplies, and there's also all of the push around eco-friendliness and things like that, right? So all these outside factors are driving change in this marketplace regularly. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And the last couple of years have really showed supply chain and procurement that there are better ways to do business and to purchase supply all sorts of supplies. And that also comes into play with printer cartridge supplies. There's opportunity
Right.
for supplier diversity. There's opportunities for changes within ESG and environmental sustainability. And with that being said, I think for a long time, those sorts of endeavors and goals were sort of a box checking
Right.
activity within companies. Maybe the CEO or new CEO came out and said, hey, we're going to save this much money in 5 years. And then they task their teams
Right.
to dive in and save that money, or we're going to, come up with a supplier diversity program, and they create a website because maybe they have a federal contract and they now have to have such a website to show
Right.
the feds that they're trying to do more business with diverse suppliers. But now really, I think I've been seeing more and more businesses actually stepping up and going, okay, how can we do this? We've been saying we're going to do it. How are we actually going to do it now? And there's plenty of opportunities for, at least on the printer consumable side, where you can find high quality product that's not OEM, that won't void your manufacturer warranty. There's actually an act enacted in 1973 that protects consumers. So you do not have to worry about using non-OEM cartridges and voiding things. And then also at the same time, when you participate with a company who is a steward basically for environmental sustainability, it comes back to you as well as the consumer. You recycle your empty cartridges, that saves 350 million pounds of cartridges ending up at our landfills when you participate in a recycling program. And what that does is it puts those cartridges back into the whole cycle. So just as everyone talks about
Right.
used water bottles and reusing those things, or you're taking tires and making toothbrushes out of them, it's the same thing with this industry. And everyone can have a part in that and participate, and it really is driving home, we want to do environmental sustainability. Here's one easy way that you guys can do that.
Yeah. So what's interesting to me, you talked about the voiding your warranty, right? And that was something that I was always hit with when I was in procurement was, my OEM manufacturer is like, no, you can't put that in there. You're going to void the warranty. And it's a scare tactic. People get, and they don't do the homework to verify that, listen, that's not even a viable discussion. Right?
Absolutely. So they'll tell you it maybe over the phone, or like if a technician is there in person, they'll say it to your face.
Yeah.
They'll never put it in writing because it's illegal.
Yeah. Really interesting. So listen, you're in this every day. And that's what I love about this. This is what you do. This is the only thing that you do. This isn't one of 37 things that we're going to buy from you. This is it. This is everything we do. Although there's a lot of SKUs, it's all within one sector. It's all everything that you engage with your clients on goes into a printer and causes ink to go on a page or toner to go on a page and outputs some device. And printing is alive and well. But one thing that is changing in the printing space is the centralization of humans in large office space versus the decentralization. Can we talk about that for a second? Let's talk about how printer imaging service and printer imaging supplies is changing due to the distribution of the labor force in I'll say, in global enterprise.
Absolutely. If you asked me 5-10 years ago what the trends were happening, you were seeing companies like HP and Lexmark producing really cheap equipment, and it was and making their money on the consumables. And that was kind of their game plan for a good 5 to 10 years.
Right.
They were getting away from the machines that cost $3,000 to $5,000, and people maintained them. HP even had a whole department that was geared with end users being able to replace maintenance kits and end user maintainable parts in their equipment. And so people kept those machines around, the 1990s up until about 2010, people kept those machines around because they were expensive and because you can repair them yourself. Well, then they realized they weren't selling new machines, and then they weren't selling new consumables, which is where their money is being made. So they kind of stopped that practice. You saw a bunch of equipment being put out that were, sub $500 machines. And there's this kind of joke, you can go to a big box store and pick up a printer, and it costs more for the ink than it does for the actual printer.
Right.
But that you can kind of see how that can scale up, when you're talking about business equipment, where they were really protecting their money-making machine, which was consumables. Now with the pandemic and people migrating to working from home permanently or being hybrid, there have been several different, I've been watching Cushman Wakefield and a few other, big commercial real estate that do property management, and how they're seeing reduction in sizes of offices, and companies are consolidating their offices, so not having as many in a certain market area, they're consolidating into fewer. So what all of that has done to our industry is we're seeing less businesses re-upping and renegotiating contracts for bigger copiers and managed print devices, because they're not really doing the volume anymore at those centralized locations with their workforce being dispersed, everywhere now. What the trend now is in smaller desktop multifunction printers. So even if someone is working from home, they might have had a inkjet printer that they were using for home use that they had to start using for work, maybe for scanning as well. But those machines are not cost effective for business use. So you're starting to see now, especially with supply chain kind of catching up a little bit, now that we're kind of at the tail end of the pandemic, with machines coming out that are, again, the smaller desktop printers and multifunctions, both monochrome and color, that pretty much do everything, except make you coffee, and for a very low price. So it's very attractive for companies to throw one of these in someone's home office, and also stay cost effective too.
Right. But I think something's really interesting here, right? Which is, okay, so the price of this stuff is coming down. Your employee population is distributing now, right? So instead of buying $3,700, HP 4000N or something like that, right, and putting it there and saying, I remember the layouts, I remember the floor plans, and it's like, okay, we're going to put one here and put 10 people around it, and one here and these 10 people, and we're going to do workload balancing and all that. Now you've got, okay, I've got one person in one house. They need to have a print output thing. And let's be honest, the bubble jet that they're printing their kids' artwork on isn't going to cut it, right? And the consumables are brutally expensive at the consumer level. So it's viable to have a decentralized employment population in a 1,500 person advertising shop, or a 500 person law firm, or things where you actually, print a lot of stuff out. I mean, I sit here and I work running a community, and I print a ton of stuff out. And just running through this, I'm like, I probably have the wrong device, by the way. I need to go up a tier like you're talking about. But it's entirely viable now to have a decentralized workforce, which is a 1-to-1 employee to printer ratio. So the employee to printer ratios are going back down because of the fact that we're all working from home now, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't see that changing. Exactly. Right? It's almost flip-flopped, right? Yep. So now it's even more important for you but you can have a decentralized location, but a centralized consumables program through somebody like yourself, right?
Absolutely. And here's the thing too, the larger the customer that I'm working with, the more often I see if they have corporate accounts set up with big box stores, is they allow those end users to do their own online ordering, because maybe they have a budget of $1,000 they could spend, in a quarter or a month on in-office use. So they allow those end users to do their ordering on their own, but they're not experts in finding the right supplies for their equipment. So they might be saying, oh, I really want to save money, so I'll buy the less expensive cartridge, which turns out to be the low yield cartridge. Right. Instead of spending $10-15 more on a higher yield cartridge that would last them 3 or 4 times as long. So there's opportunities for savings there as well, where procurement might not be realizing that this is what's happening at the end user level within their own company. So that's why I like to, we talk about what information, what's my golden goose as far as information I can get from businesses. It's not just what you've been purchasing in the last 12 or 18 months. It's, I want to see your printer fleet. Tell me what models of equipment you're actually using, because then I can direct you to say, hey, let's do a blackout catalog. And your end users, if you allow them to do their own online ordering, they can only purchase these SKUs. They don't have access to the whole giant, 50,000 item catalog, because they don't need to, and it's confusing. And when they pop in their machine model and 20 different cartridges come up, they're automatically going to choose the one that's the least expensive. And it ends up costing the company 4 or 5 times more without them even realizing it, because honestly, that's not their job, is to know that stuff.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's where I come in and kind of offer that overseeing aspect, is to help companies kind of re-educate, not
Right.
just the procurement team, but then also their end users on what are the smarter buys.
Yeah. And we talked on a little bit. We talked a little bit about the driving forces associated with sustainability and recycling and circular supply chains and things like that. I mean, that's going to be driving a massive part of your business and your education to your clients, right? On where they want to go. The clients, I'm sure your clients now are walking in the door going, okay, listen, I need to save money, but before it saves me money, I need it to be sourced properly against my ESG related agenda. And oh, by the way, the fact that you're certified minority female owned business, you're a triple threat, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about the sustainability really quickly. Then we can talk about how people can engage with us and how they can use us in the future on this particular agreement, right? So let's just touch quickly on the sustainability thing for us, because I'm sure you're seeing a lot of trends in that space. And I know you talked on a little bit. Can you just give me a little bit more on how you work with clients to make sure that they're hitting their goals and their objectives?
Absolutely. So one of the easiest things that customers can do as far as their cartridge program is to engage in a recycling program. There are a bunch of different avenues that are available. I mean, you can walk into a big box store and drop your cartridges off. Even if that's the least amount of thing that you're doing, you could at least do that. It's the easiest thing to do.
Right.
Otherwise, you can actually engage in a recycling program. They're free to participate in. We have one as well, and I drive all my clients in that direction. It provides free UPS return labels so you can ship back your empty cartridges. It's very simple. OEM companies have been doing it for years, where they pop a label right inside the cartridge box, so it's available right then and there. We do very similar things as well, so it's a very simple process for our clients. And at the end of the day, it just ends up helping you, put that product back into the circle.
Right.
So the cartridge gets broken down. Recycled material gets recycled. If it can be reused, it gets reused in an environmentally proper way. And then it just ends up helping the environment. Instead of buying brand new cartridges off the production line,
right,
you are enforcing that closed loop process, and keeping your own supplies as environmentally friendly as possible.
And this is entirely doable in a decentralized employee mechanism, right?
Absolutely.
So like you said, they can get toner delivered to their house through a program like yours, and the recycling can be stuck in a UPS box or down at the store or something like that, or in the potentially even in the mailbox with the little flag up, and people now you're part of the recycling process. Which is great for if you've got kids that are if you're trying to educate kids on this space. So fantastic to know that's now eligible in this decentralized model versus a centralized. Because I know I used to walk into the mailroom and there'd be all the toner cartridges on the wall, and it'd be like, all right, we're gonna box all these up and send them back, right? But now that it's decentralized and we go through one a month, it's good to know that my 5,000 staff of members can actually be doing this all on their own, and tracking who's doing it and who's not doing it, maybe for an incentive program for a corporation as well. So listen, it's great. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's our first time. I just wanted to get some information out there to our membership about the fact that we now have a new relationship with Quality Imaging Solutions and yourself, Heather, and that our community of Procurement Foundry members can now start to engage and purchase their program from you through our Foundry sourcing, community assisted sourcing program, aka our GPO program. So let's talk about that really quickly. We can wrap up here. I want to talk about the flow of how people would engage with us through that, because it's a little bit from Foundry sourcing and a little bit from QIS. And so obviously, we would start with, if you are interested in learning more about this program, if you are interested in checking the box on Tier 1 eligibility with Heather in minority female-owned business, if you're looking to have somebody who just focuses on this for you and isn't worried about pencils and pens and everything else, she obviously just does this. And obviously, there are some big cost savings, right, Heather? I mean, I'm sure you can throw me a stat on, hey, for the average client, I walk in the door and I save them, what's the number?
30%, and
30%.
it
There you
can go
go.
higher depending on what they're using as well.
So I'll say conservatively 25 up, but Heather throwing 30% up. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. Don't hold her to it, because who knows what your program is. She might be able to save you 80%, right? So how does this work? First things first, if you're interested from Procurement Foundry, you send us an email, or you talk to us, or direct message us. The email for this is very simply, it's info@foundrysourcing.io, and then we'll take it from there. We'll kick an NDA over to you because we have an agreement in place. So obviously this is all under non-disclosure. And then at that point, we'll do a discovery and qualification program, collecting the information on behalf, and then handing that off to Heather. Heather, what type of information should people be ready to give us as part of the discovery and qualification process?
What would be ideal is 12 to 18 months of spend, along with your printer fleet information. So that's make and model.
Okay, great. So make, model, maybe geographic location, right? Or does that even matter? Does that matter?
Doesn't necessarily matter. I just want to know. I don't need to know where they're located. I just need to know, what make and model and how many of each one, for example, you have.
Great. As long as you're not running HP 4050s on the space station, I'm sure Heather's got you covered.
If there are HP 4050 still in use, I want to go see it, because it's one of those workhorses that just do not die.
It's one of those things you bought in 1988. It's still spitting out paper, right?
The thing probably cost you $5,000, so of course you're going to keep it.
Oh, sure it did. It cost you $5,000 30 years ago, and it's still working. Okay, so once we get that discovery and qualification information in, Heather and our team at Procurement Foundry work together. We then bring you in to design a program and a deal that fits you. This is all custom pricing and custom design to your particular needs. This isn't widgetary. And then once that's done, you get into execution stage and ongoing operation and support with Heather and her team. And Bazinga, you're part of the Procurement Foundry GPO's CAS program, and everybody wins. So that's basically how the workflow works, and that's how we engage. And did I miss anything, Heather?
No, I think that pretty much covered it.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right, so just a quick update. Once again, Heather Fotch from Quality Imaging Solutions and Procurement Foundry are now in partnership through our Foundry Sourcing division, which is our answer to GPO and community assisted sourcing. And we're thrilled to have you. Thank you, Heather, so much for extending your offerings to our community. We're thrilled to have you with us and to be partnering on this with you.
I'm very excited over here as well to be partnering with Foundry and with yourself as well. You've been a person I've been following for a number of years. I love all the things that you're doing to just improve the whole space. So if there's any small part, I can help play in that to help people, then I'm happy to be on board.
Thank you. I really appreciate it as we try and raise all of the boats inside of the procurement and sourcing industry as a whole, and help everybody tool up, as I say. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Heather, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, Heather is online. You can't miss her. I'm online, info@foundrysourcing.io as well. Or if you're inside of Procurement Foundry, you can just send me a DM inside of our Slack community, and I can point you in the right direction. All right. Thanks again, Heather. Really appreciate your time today. And I look forward to continuing our conversation about how we can help people in this specific area of business that you are the niche player in.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a great day.